Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here. Some of you may know me as the Barefoot Genealogist from the Ancestry YouTube series by the same name. I'm the corporate genealogist here at Ancestry, and today we're going to be talking about starting your family tree on Ancestry. If you have an iOS or Android mobile device, there is available a free Ancestry mobile app. I would encourage you to download that. Now, whether you're going to use that long-term or use that as a companion to your desktop experience, it is the fastest way to get started. Once you've downloaded the mobile app, you're going to want to start your family tree. Now, starting a family tree on Ancestry is a completely free service, and it's a pretty simple process. You start with yourself and what you know about yourself and your immediate family members. There are some genealogical standards. We'll get into a couple of them in a little bit more detail, but I've listed them here on the screen. The first thing is that people are entered into the family tree with their birth name. So particularly women, you're going to enter them into the family tree by their maiden name and their maiden name only. So it doesn't matter if they were married once or a dozen times, that's how you're going to put them into the family tree. The second standard has to do with dates. Dates in family history are recorded as day, month, year. You're going to record the 2-digit day, the 3-character alpha abbreviation of the month, and then the full 4-digit year. There's a couple reasons we do that. One is because in some countries, the dates are written backwards than in other countries. So here in the United States, 11/1 would be November 1st, but in England, that would be January 11th. So we want to make sure there's no confusion around what our dates mean. And the easiest way to do that is to follow this standard. The full 4-digit year is written out because very quickly you're going to find yourself in a different century as you're researching your family tree. Keeping these dates in a standard format also allows us to apply hinting and searching algorithms and make sure that we understand what it is that you're looking for. Now you'll notice over here that there is going to be a prompt in the field to remind you of that so you don't have to remember. The third genealogical standard that's just pretty basic is how we enter locations, and we start smallest jurisdiction to largest. We'll dive into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. Once you've entered yourself and saved that information, you're going to see a prompt in the mobile app to add your parents, your father and your mother. You're going to go ahead and do that. And one of the things you want to keep an eye out for is this little living toggle at the bottom of the screen. That living toggle is really important. One of the important things to Ancestry is the privacy of living people. And so we want to make sure that any information about living people is not shared with others without their permission. So when you enter someone into your family tree, if they are still living, just make sure that little green living toggle is on. If you turn it off, slide it to the other side, you're going to be able to enter death date and place information. That information won't be visible, of course, if the person is marked as living. Now, when you're viewing your tree, you'll be able to see all the information about those people. But anyone else who views your tree, will only be able to see information about the deceased people. So living people won't show any information about names, birth dates, death dates and places, any documents or photos that you've uploaded. So that's why you need to make sure that you do that correctly. Now, if you don't have a mobile device or don't want to work on a mobile device, that's also okay. You can access Ancestry by going to the website through any through any web browser, whether it's on a computer or on a mobile device. And you're going to look for the Start Your Family Tree widget. And that's where you're going to be able to add the information or start your family tree there. Now, once you've started your family tree on a mobile device, you can go back and forth between a mobile device and your computer, and that information that you've already entered in one device or the other will always be viewable and available when you're on the alternate device. So that's one of the really great things, is that the mobile app and the desktop experience are both very complementary to each other. allow you to take your research with you on the go, allow you to view hints and share with family members, and also maybe have some of the larger screen real estate when you're working with a computer and some of those records that can be a little tricky to read. Now, I mentioned that step one of starting a family tree, which we've just walked through, is you start with what you know. Then step two isn't necessarily a technology step. It's more of a human touch kind of thing. I want you to think about who in your family might know some things that you don't know about your family history. So hopefully you know some things about your parents and maybe your grandparents. You can add aunts and uncles and cousins and siblings and in-laws and nieces and nephews. Like you can maybe round out the information about some of the people that you know. But once you start getting into some of the people that you didn't know or didn't know well, you're going to need to enlist the help of some family members. Now, it's okay to make some guesses. If I was entering information about my grandfather, for example, and I couldn't remember his birth date, even though I knew him, I might think, okay, well, he was about 50 years old when I was born. And so then I could calculate an approximate birth year about 19 whatever, right? And so you can guess, and that's okay when you're getting your family tree started. That's going to give you some placeholders and a place to start, and it's going to allow the Ancestry hint algorithm to start working for you. Now, once you've reached that point, you're going to want to give your mom a call or email your grandma, maybe have a conversation with an aunt or an uncle, anybody that you think might be able to provide you with more information about their parents and grandparents. Even if you don't have a great relationship with them or haven't talked to one of them in a while, this is a really good excuse and opportunity to do that. And so I would encourage you to just send off a text message or an email, let them know you've started a family tree and you'd just like to know more. Sometimes it's not just about getting the information to fill in the details of the family tree. Sometimes it's about reconnecting and hearing their stories and making sure that those stories aren't lost to time. So I would encourage you to reach out to and connect with family members. And sometimes you have to reach out to a family member or two on each side of your family tree because you want to make sure you have a well-rounded set of information wherever that's available. Now, I mentioned some genealogical standards earlier, and if you choose to follow them, this will ensure that you're getting the full advantage of all the automated tools. All of the automated tools on Ancestry, such as hinting, searching from trees, some of the DNA tools that are used to help you figure out how you're related to your DNA matches, all of those rely on or are built to the fact that there are genealogical standards. So let's just look at a couple of those in a little bit more detail. I mentioned that when you enter names, that you want to always enter women by their maiden name and their maiden name only. But you also want to make sure that you don't enter anything else into the name field except a name. So if somebody had a nickname, you can enter that as a fact. You can put that in as a note or a comment so that it's visible to other people, but you always want to put the name that they went by most often in the most number of official records. Now, I recognize that some people had name changes. So I do a lot of Jewish family history research for immigrants to the United States. And one of the things that we see is that they might have Russian name and a Hebrew name, and then they immigrate to the US and they start using an Americanized version of both their given name and their surname. And so in that case, you can enter a name fact and you can enter as many as you need. You just need to pick which one you want to show up as the preferred fact on your tree. So all the names will be attached. They'll all be visible to you on the person page, but in the tree view, you need to just pick what the preferred name is. Now, I have decided to use the birth name and just be consistent throughout my tree. Some people decide they want to use the name that they died with and be consistent that way in the tree. Totally up to you. I would just recommend consistency. And so that's how you're going to enter alternate spellings or name changes or nicknames, is with that alternate name fact. So in the name field, you're just going to have their name. Now, titles typically aren't part of a person's name. Nobody is born a captain or a reverend or a bishop. right? And so that's going to be another fact that you can enter about that person on their profile page in your tree, but it's not a part of their name. So those are just some of the genealogical standards around names. And it's your tree, so you can do what you want. But if you're putting your tree on Ancestry, how your tree shows up is going to affect hints and search results for you and for other people. So you might want to just consider some of those things. There are genealogical standards around locations as well. Now, Ancestry has a really robust location dictionary. And what that means is that we have created a list of places around the world, and we know exactly to a pinpoint on a map where those locations are. And so whenever you start typing in a location field on Ancestry, we give you a type ahead list. And when you select from that type ahead list, we can then do some geocentric searching for you. We can provide you with some maps in the life story. We can do some of that kind of thing because we know where that location is. Now, not every single location in the world is on the map, is in the type ahead list. So sometimes you'll just have to type it in as you know it. But where possible, I strongly recommend that you select from that list. If you're going to just type it in freehand, always include the name of the country. That's an important piece, or you're going to end up with maybe some odd results in your hints and search results. The second thing is don't abbreviate. So you don't want to abbreviate states or country names or the names of counties. The classic example that I like to use is WA, which here in the United States stands for Washington State, but in Australia stands for Western Australia. So you always want to spell those things out so that it's clear, because your family tree could take you anywhere in the world, and there are people from all over the world who are working on Ancestry and viewing other people's family trees. So that's just some hints about locations. Now, if you want to get really specific about a location, like if you want to list the hospital where they were born or their address where they were living when they died, that is great information to put in the fact description. In the location field, you just want to include the city, state, and country, or the town, the county, and the country, or from wherever you are in the world, or wherever that family member lived. You want to do it based on the way that the geopolitical jurisdictions kind of line out from the smallest to the largest. But the names of schools or hospitals or addresses or cemeteries, any of that kind of information, you're just going to put in the description for that particular fact. Again, that's going to allow some of the automated tools on Ancestry to just work a little bit better in your behalf. So just a little quick recap. To start a family tree on Ancestry, you can do it either by going to Ancestry on a web browser or by using the free Ancestry mobile app. You're going to start with what you know, yourself, your parents, your grandparents, any dates and locations, any details that you know about birth or death or marriage. That's going to be super helpful. Then Ancestry is going to go to work, and we're going to start looking for some of those records for you. And in another video here, we're going to talk about those leaf hints and how you use them best. After you see some of those leaf hints, you're going to explore them, you're going to save them to your tree if they are for your person, and you're going to start to make discoveries just by adding a few people in your family tree. Well, that is as simple as it is. I hope that you go out and start your family tree today. And I would also invite you to follow Ancestry on social media. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay current with any updates we do on our site. You can interact with other members and get your questions answered quickly on our Facebook page or through our Instagram account. You'll also find me in some of those places as well. Until next time, I'm Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.